CrowdStrike 24 Hours of Spa is upon us, everybody. Welcome to the biggest and best GT3 race in the world as we get set for the second free practice period in absolutely scorching hot temperatures. And it has not just been like this today, it's been like this for a week or so now, and it is set to be very, very hot all the way through the weekend, all the way through the race. The fans are loving it. People that sell Belgian beer are loving it as well. Takings are up for absolute definite. And as the track goes green, the teams venture out for another look at the circuit, another chance to get the cars absolutely right before the qualifying session later today. That is going to be very, very important indeed, because it will set us up for our new knockout Super Pole that we'll have tomorrow. David Anderson and Joe Osborne are trackside, with a 69 car entry. It's going to be mighty busy out there.
It really is. The temperature is going to be hot on the track as always, but with the ambient being so high, I do think this could be a bit of a story of the race. We're looking at 35 to 36 degrees ambient. Track temp may be getting above 60. This is going to be physical as ever, but even more so for these drivers trying to keep cool in a very fast and furious race.
Now you can see the fact that there's a few bits of the gravel trap, a few stones brought onto the line coming out of La Source. It's been a busy day here with already a number of support sessions having been cycled through, and one or two of the teams still yet to dispatch a car. But in the cases of bronze, silver, gold and Pro-Am, having 4 drivers to a car, you don't actually get that much track time before the race, so they need to try and cycle through and make everybody confident, everybody happy before we get to the qualifying session later on. And of course that's going to be in the usual part of everybody having to do an aspect of it. The fastest 32 on the combined times, the combined average time, will go through to Super Pole. Looking down from the drone, Spa looking absolutely resplendent. It had British GT as part of the Speed Week here last week. It's had a couple of track days earlier on this week. Of course, the cars went to town yesterday for the parade, and that was absolutely heaving. And as ever, there was a lot of attention around this man, Valentino Rossi, in the number 46 team WRT BMW. Last WRT win, you've got to go back to 2014, but it could be their year. The BMW's ever more capable of taking a 24-hour victory. And of course, WRT victorious here a couple of months back when we had the World Endurance Championship round, so maybe that's a good omen for them.
Yeah, one of the slickest teams in the pits, aren't they? Servicing their cars always quickly and efficiently. It's one of the Garage 59 McLarens, just trying to find some space. That is the problem around here at Spa. Just over 7 kilometres, 69 cars, so you've got just over 100 metres of space, 50 in front, 50 behind. So drivers always just trying to get that space. So when they start their flyer, it is all down to them. And I think that's going to be the flavour of qualifying. There'll be lots of drivers not in Super Pole that feel like they should have been, but traffic stopped them. As you can see, this 46 car making its way round turn 8.
Now let's just get the elephant in the room out of the way, in a sense. How much is this temperature going to be a big issue for those in the cars?
Massive. Depending on the car, depending on how much the engineers and the designers thought air conditioning was important to driver welfare, is going to play a huge role here. The drivers obviously very fit athletes, but when you're asking those drivers to sit in the car for 3 hours and do a triple, I think it's going to edge this race into a double stint. And you go, okay, that's fine, you're still going to get to 24 hours. But the problem then is you get less rest as a driver. You want to triple through the night. So you, as the third driver getting off, get 6 hours off if you're in the pro lineup, and maybe up to 9 in the 4-driver lineups. And if drivers are only going to double, you're going to get less sleep. So you won't be as hot, but fatigue will come in a different manner.
And I know we're jumping ahead a little bit, but in a sense, Saturday is arguably a little bit easier because the temperatures from when we start are dropping into the evening, whereas on Sunday they're always going up, aren't they, all the way up to 4:30 when the race finishes. There in the pit lane is the Tsunami RT entry, which is still suffering from dramas earlier on in the day. This is the car of Johannes Zelger, Fabio Babini, Daniel Gaunt and Nico Menzel. It is one of the most colourful cars out there. And as you can see, it is one of the few that is not yet on track. Ben Tuck, currently the fastest in the Blackner Kessel Ferrari number 74, and up to 5th quickest goes Valentino Rossi, who is sent out to do the opening stint in the WRT BMW M4.
Yeah, Valentino goes just 6,500 slower than Kelvin van der Linde in the sister BMW. So we've been banging the drum for some time, haven't we, that Valentino Rossi isn't here for fun. He is now a GT driver, not an ex-MotoGP rider, and that sort of lap time proves why he deserves to be on the grid.
Thought I'd heard a clatter through the gravel. Yes, somebody has gone into the gravel. It's number 42 BMW that has gone off the racetrack. It's the Bronze Cup car of Callan Williams, Ahmad Al-Hafi, the Century car this, and the other two drivers being Pedro Ibrahim and Javier Segura. And Pedro Ibrahim, back from GT4 and Lamborghini racing, is the one that went off, but I'm pleasantly surprised to see he's driven out of the gravel. That doesn't happen very often.
Amazingly, when you go backwards as well, you're on the brake to stop hitting the barriers. You normally naturally dig in, but yeah, that thing pulled away lovely, and if we hadn't caught it on camera, he might have been able to get away with that one. The team would have been none the wiser.
Exactly, into gravel mode. Zero is the Corvette coming up towards the timing line that's got Jordan Love behind the wheel as that car now goes into La Source. Let's go on board and have a closer look at the Spa circuit.
So the flat plane crank V8 screams as we dive downhill. Surprising the gradient down here into Eau Rouge. You can see the speed building. Should be 240 kilometers an hour through Eau Rouge. Fully flat until we just breathe out the throttle, and that's just to keep the track limits. You can now see the speed rising all the way. Should get over just over 260 kilometers an hour before we hit the brake for the first part of Lecumbe. The curb on your left is a great braking reference. It should be down 3 gears as fast as you can, on top of the curb as close as you can to the gravel, and then just hook up the curb. And you can see from the inside it's one thing, but then when you look behind and you've got the Kettle Ferrari chasing you, it gives you an appreciation of what these drivers are doing. It isn't just what you're doing, it's everything around you. You factor in those gear shifts. You're doing 36 gear shifts a lap round here. You're shifting gear every 3 seconds. You have to turn the wheel, you have to press the pedals. You're communicating to the team. And we're talking about doing that for 3 hours straight with cockpit temperatures, I think, in some of the less favourable cars, up to 60 degrees centigrade. Enjoyable.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you get to driver fatigue on Sunday, it's going to be dramatic. There is talk of a big storm on Saturday night, but we'll see. There is then Jordan Love back in a GT World Challenge Europe race. Remember, we had him a regular in the series 2 or 3 years back, and the Australian good to have on the grid once more. He's got the charging Bentuck Ferrari behind him. Fastest time thus far, Ricardo Feller's Brands Hatch Sprint Cup winning Porsche, and that's now done a 2:18.879 for the Swiss driver. There, one of the Audis, still popular, and the grid boosted by a Pro-Am class. They're absolutely ideal for Pro-Am entrants. They're in 12th fastest in the times, currently Kelvin van der Linde, and it might only be free practice. It might be early in the session, but nobody leaving anything on the table at Blanchimont. Car's absolutely on the edge there.
Yeah, track limits are going to be watched massively at Blanchimont, not just exit entry as well. So track limits were prevalent, weren't they, last year? The drivers knowing where the rules are, but as a driver, you've got to push those boundaries every single millimetre that's out there.
Up towards La Source, then goes the Zero Corvette, one of the cars that is entered, and not quite every, but most manufacturers have got all their fleet of cars entered for Intercontinental GT Challenge, which, of course, the CrowdStrike 24 Hours of Spa is a key round of. We've had Bathurst, we've had the Nürburgring. This is round 3 before Suzuka and Indianapolis to round out the year. So much as we'll talk about the race also factors into GT World Challenge Europe with points scored at 6, 12 and 24 hours. There is also Intercontinental GT Challenge to factor in as well. In silver, Tresor Attempto, of course, Monza winners, and Rocco Mazzola, part of that winning crew, coming down through the chicane. It looks rather different, doesn't it, for a Tresor Attempto Audi in its cargo colours, but Rocco Mazzola proved to be very, very handy a peddler at Monza. And the Italian GT champion comes up towards La Source with a very busy road ahead of him.
Yeah, that's the flavour. So there'll be a few strategies from teams here. Predominantly, they will want to get their eye in for qualifying. We'll see Mara Engel hanging up his jacket, going to get ready. I say jacket's a slow Mercedes there, staying out the way for the moment. It's probably a cool vest, actually. A lot of the drivers investing in a cool vest just to keep their core temperatures down. But yeah, this Audi at Monza was phenomenally fast, wasn't it? And that was when the sister car got wiped out at turn 1 as well. That looks probably even stronger than that.
Aston Martin, of course, victorious 2 years ago, and it's Lamborghini that comes here as our reigning winner, if you like, of the CrowdStrike 24 Hours of Spa. But that was with the Huracan. Now it's with this Temerario, which is still being developed. and Lamborghini may not be quite so competitive this year as last. There, then, Rocco Mazzola, third in the times, comes down through Bruxelles. Fastest, as you can see, is Arthur Leclerc in number 50, AF Corsa Ferrari.
Yeah, 7/10 clear as well, so it's been a fast lap, and 18.1 has moved the game on. Last year, this session was 4/10 slower than FP1. FP1 this morning for these drivers, they were down in the 17, so I still expect another 5 or 6 tenths to be found, but the track temp has just come up so high now. I think these drivers are going to be struggling to do more than 4 or 5 laps before the pressures go out the window, and that's what my point I was making. Some teams will be focused on a quali prep, so they just need 1 fast lap. Others, I think, will still want to get their eye in for a race run and maybe doing longer runs, and the drivers just having to suck up and see how that traffic affects you throughout that run.
So at the moment, we are looking at a session with 47 minutes to go. Rocco Mazzola not improving in sectors on this lap. And teams were saying this morning, weren't they, that as soon as the tyre loses its edge with the tyre dag, it's a massive gap. You know, you're not talking of a tenth or so. It's a big, big drop. Yeah,
normally the deg is because of the compound. The top part of the tyre that you use first when it's new is the softest, and then it goes off as Mazzola actually boxes at the end of this lap. But here, I think, is actually surface temperature. The drivers can see pressures and tyre temp, but they can't see the surface temp. And when the teams then get in and do their spread, they're seeing tyre temp of 120 degrees centigrade. Anything above 100 becomes suboptimal, so we're well above that. So there's going to be some style changes for drivers to try and take the energy out of that.
You can see WRT, as ever, in its favoured place at the end of the endurance pits. We have this very long pit lane because we link the F1 pits, the top pits, with the endurance pits, the bottom pits. Some prefer to be in the top, some prefer to be in the bottom. Come what may, it is a longer way through that pit lane. So up to the timing line comes the Winward Mercedes 48. This is the car that Mauro Engel will take over, seemingly on the next stop for it. Lucas Auer doing driving duties at the moment. And for Mauro Engel, it's another important weekend. He's won the previous 2 races within IGTC. However, life, even if he wins this, gets rather uncomfortable because the next 2 clash with his DTM duties. So sadly, it doesn't look like he's going to be able to convert that great early season success into a title attack. But Lucas Auer up to 3rd fastest, that time around at 2:18.7. Best lap of the session, 2:18.1 from Arthur Leclerc.
Yeah, the only non-Ferrari in the top 4 at the moment, this yellow Winward man filter Mercedes, and he's got some good track space at the moment to Petrobelli and the Acuria cross car, so he's only just under a tenth off the fastest in Sector 1, so this is still a good sector so far from Lucas Auer. The Mercedes always looks so poised and balanced, doesn't it? Yeah. We rarely see it snapping out of oversteer. It has a nice pitch under braking. See the nose dive down, that huge V8 engine, really helping the drivers feel the front axle, and then the rear is so solid. One of our older GT3 cars, of course, going to be replaced in the next few years, as we understand.
Older chassis it may be, but still very competitive indeed. And as you made the point earlier, it's a good go-to car for some of the bronze drivers, the AMs in the Pro-Am class here this weekend as well. So Lucas Auer coming up behind Giacomo Petrobelli there in the Blackthorn Acuria Cross Aston Martin. Part of this 69 strong entry. And at the moment, we are missing 3 with a time, one of which is Marcus Winkelhock, a double winner of the event. He's just ventured out in the number 84 Audi, but then there's the Tsunami car as well, and one other that hasn't ventured out yet. So to the end of the lap comes Lucas Auer. I'm not seeing anybody really ripping up the timing sheet with purple sectors, very few greens either. You've worked out who's missing?
I think it's the Pure X racing car. Did you mention that one?
I did not.
The 9 car.
Okay. So it's obviously been on track, but number 9 in the earlier session, but number 9 not out there yet. Right, Lucas Auer bails, and this is a car that's in the endurance pit, so it's a long, slow drive down the pit lane. And if you're a doyen of the Spa 24 Hours, you remember what happened to Alessandro Pierguidi getting stuck in that little chute coming from pit in to the actual line. But it happened again, can you believe, to somebody last week in the British GT race.
Yeah, it was painful, wasn't it? The marshals got there as quickly as they could, but there was 4 or 5 GT2 cars stacked up there, and their race was really lost. It all went a lap down, so there's nothing you can do. The entrance is narrow, and it's not even unique to Spa. There's lots of pit lanes in the world that are only 1 car wide, but it just feels that entry so long and uphill for it to happen twice now. The lightning seems to have formed a pattern. Yeah,
it was in the first of the 2 GT2 races at the British GT weekend, just to clarify the point. But yes, we looked at each other thinking, really? It's happened again? There is the crew that won 2 years back: Nicky Tim, Marco Sorensen, Mattia Drudi in 007 Aston Martin. And this car, as yet, is not really affecting the timing order, but it is getting there. 26th, as you can see. Nicky Tim is at the wheel of it. And coming out of Bruxelles now, with the first 20 minutes of this second free practice period almost done. We've had a few dramas in earlier support sessions, but so far so good. Nicky Tim now coming down towards the fast left of Pouhon.
You can see the speed staying above 170 k's as he has to bring it in for a second apex at 200. And there's the traffic. He's catching Jonathan Hui in front, and as a driver you'll be thinking, am I going to get to the end of this lap clear? Because at the moment this would be just enough to get them in Super Bowl, wouldn't it, if it was on an average in 26th? But that shows you how tight that is going to be, so close to the gravel there. We saw an Aston last year throw it in the barrier, didn't we, in Super Bowl with Enrique Chavez in the Falconhurst car. So there's so much jeopardy around this Spa circuit, and that it's perverse to say, but that's why drivers love it. You can have a monster crash at 90% of the corners, and that's what the drivers want. They want that jeopardy of, I want to drive as fast as I can, but I want to know when I've made a mistake, and I want it to be painful in a sadistic way.
Yeah, that Enrique Chavez moment, you're right, he put it in the barrier, and that put the car out for the weekend. So it was very costly indeed. Nicky Tim now then into the chicane. Jonathan Hui ahead of him, and Nicky Tim decides enough's enough out of this stint. Into the pit lane comes the ComTu Racing run Aston Martin, the other crack Belgian team. There's always been something about SRO GT3 racing and Belgian teams squabbling. Go back to the early days of what was then called Blancpain Endurance Series. You had the Mark VDS BMWs and the WRT Audis, 2 Belgian teams. Now you've got WRT versus ComTu. For Rover Racing, though, 98 BMW is set to go, and eventually decides, yeah, I'll go. Nicky Tim lets him go. 48 Maro Engel to take over. Car drops down. This car, of course, in Pro, where you're allowed 3 drivers to a car, in all the other classes, 4.
See them just going through their procedure, minimum fueling time, so it looked like they're just going through the whole procedure just to make sure everyone is well versed in that, and then Maro will be given the signal to fire the engine up. He will blast out. He only has about 25% of the pit lane left. Actually, the team doing a bit more work, and mechanic going in the door. So maybe not quite as routine as we first thought.
Maro Engel, the joint championship leader within IGTC, along with Maxime Martin. Well, of course, this weekend, because it's largely a GT World Challenge Europe race that takes priority, they are split with their regular teams. This is the car that Ben Tuck drove earlier on. Dustin Blattner, Matty Gerbert and Dennis Marshall, the other drivers. That's a mighty lineup as well. Matty Gerbert, part of that Genesis hypercar program in the World Endurance Championship. Certainly a man to watch. And the Blattner company car drops back down, and the Kessel Run entry accelerates down the pit lane.
Yeah, he almost had a standout Le Mans, didn't he, Gilbert? Those parts of his stints just looked the best on track, so he'll be interesting to watch. In this very disciplined race, if you were a newcomer to motorsport and you go, it's a 24-hour race, so is Le Mans. It's a completely different circuit, the up, the down, the undulation, and then the fact it is, as we've got a red flag out at the moment, the fact that it is all single class. Yes, we've got 4 subclasses, but that's done on driver grading. All of these cars are GT3 cars, as we see the Audi in the wall at the exit of No Name by the looks of it. It's gone into the barrier, but damage doesn't look too bad. And luckily for them, looks like the wing is slightly higher than the top of the wall, or the end plate is just being flicked around 90 degrees, actually.
Looks like Pierre Castellin was the man that's put the car off. Yeah, Speaker's Corner is the unofficial name for that part of the circuit, because it was the one place that you could see from the old commentary box, the old speaker's room, from the grandstand opposite the pits, the old pits. And these days it's become the Jackie Ickx corner, but there are one or two that say, well, it's a horrible corner anyway, let's not name it after Jackie Ickx, and they still go back to calling it Speaker's Corner. However, it doesn't have much runoff, and as you can see, it has ensnared an Audi, and so the Haas RT car is going to have to be hoiked out of there. It'll possibly just knock the rear wing askew, and this is how he got there. Look in the, oh, there's a bit of help possibly. If you look at the top of the screen, there was another car involved, so possibly Pierre Castellan was bundled out of the way there.
Looks like a Porsche to me, maybe a Boots and VDS one.
Right.
Just trying to spot it in the distance. It's the only negative when there's, well, only 68 cars to guess, because I know one of them which it was not. But yeah, that will be looked upon from race control, of course. Not historically an overtaking spot, because it is such a short brake zone, as the marshal's already on scene. And that's the positive of the cars having to do 80 Ks under a red flag. We don't have to wait for all of those cars to get back to pit lane as viewers watch on the stream. That's the best way to do motorsport at the track, but with the live onboards and the stream provided.
Ryan Shinguven there in the Red Bull hat, looking on as well. Another driver that was at Le Mans a couple of weeks ago, although sadly his race ended with damage. While we have this red flag, Bryn Lucas down in the pit lane has been busy, and he has been able to find Valentino Rossi for his thoughts on the weekend. Let's join Bryn.
Well, you're used to racing around these sorts of conditions, Valley. It's very, very tough conditions-wise out there. We're looking at the times. 2:18 is the best so far. That's nowhere near what we saw in the prologue. Just how tough is it out there?
Yeah, the temperature and the condition are really, really extreme. Because for Spa, this temperature is quite unusual. So I think that everybody suffer with, especially with the tires that become very hot. But anyway, I mean, we did some modify at the car. I feel quite good when I drive. My lap was not so bad, and with the new tire to have a clean drive that is not so bad. Looks like that we are not the strongest of the field, but we will see. It's just Thursday, so maybe we can improve.
It's early days. It's not qualifying. You don't have to worry just yet. But are you having to adapt and change your driving style because of the conditions out there, because of the track surface and how slippery it is?
Yeah, everything become more difficult, you know. And less grip like this with the hot is also more easy to make mistakes. So when you try to push just a little bit more, you go wide, you go in the dirt. So you need always to drive like this, you know.
You're pretty good at that. Thanks very much.
Grazie. Thank you. Ciao. Ciao.
Yeah, valid point Valentino Rossi makes about needing to be ultra careful, and his army of fans, of course, are here. There were many of them in the Spa town last night for the parade, where the BMWs were the focus of attention, and all parked themselves out what has now become Palmeiras, the old Chandelier d'Or bar, and had a good photo shoot there. But the town last night, possibly because of the weather helping, was absolutely heaving. Good news is the Audi doesn't look damaged particularly, maybe a little wisp of smoke as bodywork might rub a tyre, but it's got away lightly.
Is it doing more than 80 K? How often do we see this? She calls the red flag and unfortunately should be at 80. Normally the Audi with its hazard lights on, but yeah, the damage doesn't look too severe. The end plate will just get bolted back onto the wing unless it's pulled through the fastening, and now I think we're at 80, so hopefully they get away with that as the hazard lights do come on.
And while that car has got going, others are still coming into the pit lane, so we should be able to go back to green on short notice here, because the Audi won't be far off rejoining. It's not like we need lots of barrier repairs or anything like that. We have had that in earlier sessions today, but the session should be able to get back underway fairly swiftly. Niels Vitic, the race director, will be keeping an eye to all of this. So the car that Arthur Leclerc had topped the times in has now been given over to Sean Gelael, and Fabian Schiller, another of the Nürburgring 24-hour winners, takes over number 17 Mercedes AMG that is currently second. There is the Schumacher CLRT Porsche, number 22. As you can see, that's the car that Matt Campbell returns to Europe to drive, along with Laurin Heinrich and Ian Shinguven.
I think it was the Porsche behind, actually, the car collection motorsport car that might have got into the side of the Audi, and you could just see the mechanics just checking the front end out of that car.
Best of the Porsche is quite a long way down yet, but there's a lot of session still to go. With this being free practice, of course, the clock carries on ticking, so all of this eating into the available hour. And Cap Pierre Castelin, the short code on the Lumi rank, comes into the pit lane. Last night, a very simple touch, but a really effective one. All the cars with that Lumi rank display, it flicked between 24H for 24 hours or Spa, and it just looked really cool as they all came into town promoting the event. It's a simple touch, but good thinking. Right, the Audi arrives at pit in. We're still under red flag conditions, and a couple of cars leaving the pit lane under the red light has been noted. That tends not to end well.
No, one of them being the 46 as well. So be interesting to know, does that mean they left their box when it was red, or did they drive through the end of pit lane in a red? Either or, it's bad news. Session will resume in just over 1 minute's time.
Yeah, Max Hesser is now in that 46 BMW. That was the Lion Speed Porsche being put away. Jordan Pepper storms out of the pit box in the 32 BMW.
That Lion Speed Porsche has been fast but problematic, hasn't it? Had a
Power steering.
Yeah, exactly. Ricard had to retire from in a podium position at the time, and Brands Hatch, the similar story. So
and then it got drilled at Monza, so we never really saw what it was capable of.
Porsche have been unlucky, haven't they?
Yeah,
when you take in the Boutsen VDS one as well. With I saw on Instagram an account had worked out how many seconds each race had lasted, and I think one was 13, one was 42, and one was 20, and one was 0 because they missed the second race at Brands.
That's right.
Because the damage was so bad in race 1. That car just has had 0 luck on opening laps so far in GT World Challenge Europe.
And 2 of the 3 races it's done, Robin Knudsen has been the poor bloke being nailed on the first lap. Gilles Magnus was the start driver at Monza. That didn't really bring any better luck. Green lights are on then, and so we go green at the end of the pit lane. The cars are now able to be released, and there's this long climb up the hill. And also, just to bear in mind, you can see there the little bit of red, the red painting on the inside of the line. Drivers have in the past cut that. It's a slightly quicker pit exit, but that's being very carefully controlled now, because the thought is if someone's having a drama at the top of Radion and you're cutting that corner, there's a greater chance that you might meet in the middle. So anybody doing it in this session is going to get a fairly draconian penalty to get the message across.
It's always just quite a nice life hack. You used to keep it pinned, and you were nowhere near the pit line exit when you went there. And it was an unwritten rule that it wasn't monitored, so it wasn't illegal. But quite rightly, as the event gets bigger and the whole support behind the scenes from SRO, it just kind of brings the professional level up step and step. And the full cut, it's got to be worth a second a lap. So it's a big difference as a driver. The worst is when you've been doing it for a decade, to then go back to doing something legal makes it very difficult.
Another 700 you just saw getting ready to go. The Nico Bart, Xavier Knauf, Greg Servet, Sarah Bovey, Aston Martin. Number 700, which will be Greg Servet behind the wheel of it. So everyone goes back on track with half an hour, effectively, still to run here. So we'd put Mauro Engel into 48. We'd also put Sean Gillard into the top Ferrari, number 50. And number 17, second fastest, the Fabien Schiller Maxime Martin entry, yet to venture back out. That's the car that was also shared with Maxi Goetz, whose first Spa 24 was 2013, and he won first time out. Him, Ben Schneider, and Maxi Buch. Right, Engel looks like he's building up for a very good lap already. Looks like he's on a mission coming out of Blanchimont there.
Yeah, that's the positive where they're in pit lane. He's got no one in front of him, but everyone behind him, it seems. But with less than half the session remaining, we're going to get time for 13 more flyers. So suddenly drivers who thought they might get a small run at the end might get kicked out of the run plan. And then the next time they drive the car is at the start of qualifying. Again, just upping the ante for these drivers. When you've got to deliver a lap in qualifying, it is the most important part of a race weekend. That single lap, so pure, that you have to deliver. As we look at this Porsche, still with problems. Looks electrical, doesn't it, around the rear of the car. They're plugged in on the data trying to diagnose the potential issue there.
Big disappointment, all of this time being lost, and drivers know, as you say, they've got the pressure on of qualifying when they do go back out. And to have dramas this early in the weekend just constantly puts you on the back foot, doesn't it? Everybody's tired going into the race, and then other little errors can come. But some very worried faces here from that Tsunami RT camp. Next time the cars are on track is 7:45 local time for qualifying, which comes in 4 groups, but 8 parts, because we are dividing each into a Group A and a Group B to split the classes to give people a bit of track time. So it's going to be very, very busy in terms of monitoring who's doing what, when and where. And that only sorts out the back of the grid. The top 32 get to Super Pole tomorrow.
Yeah, and then when we get the 4 drive lines, we go ABC as well. So there's going to be a huge amount of shuffling there. And it's going to be interesting to see what the optimal session is to be out there. As the evening goes on, the track temp will fall away. That will be a positive, but gravel will get drawn on. So there's going to be a few teams out there and drivers using the new excuse of there's a huge snap of oversteer for Jordan Pepper right in the middle of the pool. And that was a rare moment to have. We saw the speed earlier from Nicky Team. The car doing 180 kilometers an hour at that point, but it touched the exit curve in between the 2 apexes at 10 and 11. It's actually monitored this year, the track limits in between the 2. It wasn't last year, but that was a lively moment, and Pepper will be fully awake.
It will indeed. Harry George, number 4 McLaren, fully awake as well. His pit lane speed is under investigation. So all of that, of course, carefully monitored, and the information goes to race control. Jordan Pepper's lap looks spectacular. The sector times would argue, wouldn't they, really, here?
Yeah, and that's the problem with tyre temp. Once it's too high, the car moves around, so you slide, you generate more tyre temp, so you slide, and then you're stuck in the cycle. And as a driver, you feel like you're driving on eggshells. You're holding the steering wheel with just your thumb and index finger, trying to be as gentle as possible. And it's just so frustrating. You have to really under-energize the car. And that feels very alien for racing drivers, as that lap of a 2-minute 20.3, 2.2 off the fastest of the lap. Gives you a good illustration of how hard these drivers have to work to get lap time out of these cars.
Now here, one of the grunt and go Mustangs that was so unlucky to be wiped out, both of them at the first corner of the Monza race. 64, first up, is the car in the hands of Arjun Maini, Fabio Scherer and Thomas Drouet. And they sound fantastic, these cars, as we know. They're real fan favourites. But this one has got a little bit of time to find just at the minute. This is the car of Fabio Scherer, who's raced Formula 3 here, he's raced DTM here, he's been a LMP2 class winner here in the World Endurance Championship as well.
It's a good lap this though. His sector 1 was his fastest, and actually the 8th fastest we've had out of anyone in the session. Sector 2 was okay, not amazing, and when the field is so tight, that's the problem. You just can't have an average sector. We saw last year qualifying 4 separated the top 32 by just a single second, and you can see that average sector 2 I was talking about, 1.8 off the fastest after a mega sector 1. He's going to punch the line. This might get him in the top 40, 43rd. That shows you exactly the competitive nature of this GT World Challenge field.
The incident that put number 28 Audi in the gravel did involve 8 Porsche, the car collection car of Reinhold Kram, Joel Sturm, Nicola Rossi and Nicola Schiro. So that's the one that's having been looked at in the pits by the team and by race control as well. Yeah,
it was Sturm in the car at the time. I remember looking at the timing screen, so Niels Vitic will want a stern word with him, I'm sure.
Fabio Scherer, meantime, pressing on, see if he can get another lap out of this set of tyres before they lose their edge. The Mustang then makes that run up the hill again. Comes towards us. Into Les Combes, so Fabio Scherer into Les Combes, but as he turns in on this lap, quicker again within the first sector.
Look at the rear tyre giving up already, so I assume this could have been a new tyre run, and this is the second lap of it. The speed trap was good as well at the end of the Kemmel for this car. Brussels is a hard corner because you're still braking into the mid part. You want to rotate the car, jump on the gas, but you've got to drag it back to the right for No Name or Speaker's Corner or Jackie X, depending on what you first learn. As a racing driver, we have to stick to the first time we drove the circuit, being our IQ too low, and it is a good sector one. You can see on the graphic, this is where Pepper had his slide a few laps back. The Ford looking very poised through there, and Evo this year, so some aero updates for this car.
Right, Scherer closing on the traffic ahead. Meanwhile, the top time of the session is still that of Arthur Leclerc from earlier on. Joseph Logue has gone up to 8th. He's the most recent significant improver in the Garage 59 McLaren, number 59. And that then is a 2:18.9. Other improvers include Jules Gounon, who's got number 3 Mercedes, now up to 15th.
Scherer, much better sector 2. It's Rolf Eichen in the JMW Ferrari in front, just the right distance. You'll actually start to get a bit of a toe at this length, but you won't be losing any of the front grip. Importantly for him, one more break to go. Was that track limits on the exit of Blanchemont turn 17? It was close if it wasn't over. Got to get it stopped into the bus stop, got in too deep, and as a driver it's so tempting to. You look at your delta time, you're up on your fastest lap, so what do? I go even faster, and already you're at your braking point, and he crosses the line. He goes up to 10th. It was a good lap, but for me, 3 or 4 tenths lost in the last sector, and maybe a track limit. We'll keep an eye on the timing screen for that one.
Okay, and as we do that, the session has got just 23 minutes still to go. And we can go to the pit lane again, in fact, while we look at this battle pack on track. Because Gwenelle Longy, our French reporter, has found Gaspard Simon, and we can hear from them.
Gaspard Simon, winner of the SRO GT Academy last season in France. First ever time here at the CrowdStrike 24 Hours of Spa. How does it feel like to be driving here?
That's very special. The part was really special yesterday, and for me it's my biggest event in my career, and just at the beginning of the FP2 to have a lot of people in the grandstand, it's very special for me, so let's see what we can do.
What's the aim for you guys in the silver class?
To be good, to have a good race. The first victory is to finish the race. To be honest, we have to work here on the car. It's really difficult to see what is your pace. It will be really hard doing the quali with the hot temperature for the Aston Martin. It's a British car, so there is not a lot of hot temperature in British. So let's see, but I have a lot of pressure. That's the first of all, and let's see after.
Un petit mot en français, Gaspard, à présent, c'est votre première participation ici au CrowdStrike 24 heures de Spa en tant que vainqueur de la SRO GT Academy la saison dernière. Beaucoup de choses nouvelles pour vous ce week-end et des conditions pas faciles pour découvrir cette course. Racontez-nous un peu comment vous vivez ce début de semaine.
Ah, c'est sûr que c'est la première fois que je roule avec des conditions aussi chaudes, j'ai envie de dire. C'est juste spécial. Déjà la parade, c'était ma première parade de 24 heures. C'est juste exceptionnel. Déjà en quittant les stands en FP2, il y a un nombre de personnes dans les tribunes et on n'est que le jeudi, c'est juste exceptionnel. Donc j'ai envie de prendre du plaisir, c'est juste ouf.
Merci Gaspard, bonne session.
So Gaspard Simon, who was the winner of the SRO GT Academy last year and has had an impressive debut season. We've got a few more cars now being looked at for the pit lane speed, but this car down the pit lane is the other Mustang. Massive effort by Haupt. Effectively build 2 new cars for this weekend. 65 is the Finn Wiebelhaus, Maxime Osten, Eduardo Cosseteng, Max Rice entry. 50 in the meantime is the fastest Ferrari thus far. That's the Lilo Waudu, Arthur Leclerc, Sean Gallile car. It's got Sean Gallile behind the wheel of it, and this car currently a 1/10 of a second, just over a 1/10 of a second to the good.
Yes, quite a big gap for GT World Challenges as we look at the 59 car, Joseph Loke.
Short track, 7 kilometres, you know.
Loads of space as well.
Yeah.
7th at the moment for this car, half a second off fastest. And this car was rapid, wasn't it, last year in the hands of Marvin Kirchhofer. Another victim of Monza Turn 1. Spoke to Marvin this morning. Whole new chassis on this car. So even though carbon fiber technology, they've had to replace the tub. And that's the first time it's run here. So they were learning the car as he gives a good draft to Maxime Martin, who's second fastest at the moment, as you can see on the Luma rank.
Indeed so. And as he gets to the end of the first sector of the lap, Maxime Martin goes no quicker, even with a little bit of a tow. Session with 20 minutes still to run, and apart from that Audi going off into the gravel, the only real issues in this have been people speeding in the pit lane, but better it gets looked at now than in the race.
Yeah, and it might look a bit amateur why so many cars are speeding in the pit lane, but the pit lane nearly a kilometre long, 992 metres. You're doing it for 72 seconds, sorry. So you need every 0.1 of a kilometre. So the teams get greedy, and even though the pit lane speed limit is 50k, that's the circuit's 50k. Is that your 50k? So you'll set at 50, you're only doing 49.5. So you set it at 50.5, and then suddenly you're doing 50.1. So I just think it's worth clearing up. It looks a bit amateur, like I said, teams getting done for speeding, but it's pure greed and performance the reason why they're doing it.
And Joseph Loke, I think, backs out of that lap, doesn't he? Because he sees Christopher Halse behind him, so he lets the Audi go, and Joseph Loke elects not to bother with that lap. There's number 22 Porsche, which has got Fred Makovici at the wheel. He's replaced Laurin Heinrich in the last few days. Good to have Fred Mako back in a Porsche. And here's somebody with a a massive commitment to GT3 racing over the years for different brands, but good to have him back in a Porsche. 20 years of GT3, of course, being celebrated this season. And if you're with money burning a hole in your pocket, you might want to invest in Gary Watkins' new book that came out yesterday, 20 Years of GT3 Racing. It is a lovely trip down memory lane, and knowing Gary, it's been done properly as well, so I would commend it to you.
And if you've got even more money, go and buy the new GT4 Porsche based on the 911 now, released this morning and looks phenomenal.
It does, doesn't it?
Porsche now using the 911 platform that's done so well in GT3, now in GT4, which is here this weekend as well with the European GT4 series, with 40 cars on the grid and 11 manufacturers represented there.
Including some delectable Caymans, I noticed, in GT4 still. But yes, Porsche Sprint Challenges will look a bit different potentially next year. We go off into tangents. Fred McAveeky sitting on the back of Charles Dawson's 2Cs car. That's another one that had dramas from Monza, not in terms of accidents, but engines. So it's got the sort of British GT power unit in it. And Cian Jewis, when I spoke to him this morning, was ever mindful of just how grueling a race this was going to be. And although he said, maybe we don't have the outright pace, as long as we keep out of trouble, we're going to be fighting for a podium. And that's the other way of looking at this, isn't it? I know we talk about it being a 24-hour sprint, and it is, but people will crack and cars will crack.
Yeah, and that's the interesting bit. With balanced performance racing, we see the balanced performance working so well week in, week out. Micro adjustments always happening, and that's when the teams and the manufacturers then look to see, right, we can't make the car any faster, but we can make it easier for a stint. We can make it easier for the driver, for the teams to get in the setup window. And that's where these sort of micro changes in evos of cars are. And so the car will always get BOP to a lap time, but if it can do it every single lap in every sort of condition, that's the important bit. And I actually wonder if that's what Joseph Loke was doing. Had he gone too hard on his tyres and he was doing a mega slow lap, and that might be some learning for them in quali. If they can do a push lap, cool lap, push again, they might get away with that. Also for the race, full course yellow and safety cars, the tyre pressures go through a huge window on that full green at the end of a stint to a full course yellow, and they need to keep them above a certain minimum for safety measures too.
So Fred McAveeky, who's spent recent seasons, of course, as part of Alpine's hypercar program, goes up through Raidillon. On a day like today, Spa just looks exceptional, doesn't it? This is the car of Enrique Chavez and Christian Cronjes. Enrique with a point to prove after crashing in Superpole last year, and therefore the car had to be withdrawn. Christian Cronjes, Jamie Day, Enrique Chavez, the three. Jamie Day, somebody else that quietly flies under the radar, but he does a really good job. And somebody else that's come from the GT4 ranks of the British Championship, one to watch. Another car to keep an eye on is going to be BMW number 30. This one runs in silver for Ignacio Montenegro, Mathis Lismont, Amaury Cordil, and the returning Mathieu Dietrich, returning to GT World Challenge, that is. But Ignacio Montenegro's had a really good season thus far, moving up from touring car racing. Mathis Lismont as well has been terribly impressive this season as well. So one to watch in the Silver Cup, this.
Yeah, just starting to look down the order of cars I thought could be higher. The one that sticks out like a sore thumb in 43rd place, the 98 Rover BMW. Marciello was in the wheel the last time round, only doing a 19.8, 1.7 seconds off, well outside the top 40.
Carl's getting out of Montenegro's way here as the touring car champion comes out of Bruxelles, and there's the look across the valley back towards the F1 pits. A little bit wide maybe coming out of turn 9 down towards Pouhon. Then goes the BMW. More and more cars cycling through pit stops, but Ignacio Montenegro to Pouhon this time. We've had 68 cars now on track, including that number 9 Porsche of Alexei Nesov. That was the other one that we were missing earlier. That has gone out, and therefore the Tsunami RT team's travails continue. That Porsche not yet seen.
Yeah, the Purex car only has done 6 laps though, and in pit lane, so there's a few cars with questions ahead of qualifying, and not that much time for the teams either to address it, and no time for them to go back out to see if those problems are fixed either.
Right, Montenegro coming up towards the end of a lap when he was down in that middle sector, but still pushing. So Ignacio Montenegro comes through Blanchimont. It is Ferrari from Mercedes, AMG from Ferrari from McLaren now, because Salman Ovega has got number 5, the Optimum car, up to 5th. It's Ferrari, 4th now, Salman Ovega. It's 5th, Simon Birch. It's 6th, the Mercedes AMG of Mauro Engel, and Montenegro 52nd at the start of the lap is about to break the beam, and as he comes up towards the timing line now, that puts the car 52nd. Despite the good start to the lap, goes no better, and that's a surprise.
Yeah, 7 manufacturers represented in the top 15. One of them not BMW, another one, the Corvette here, we're looking at Stella, which really found some form at Monza, didn't it? Yeah. Dennis Lind was lighting up the timing screen quite often as well, so they all want to be able to find a bit more pace out of this car that we rode on board with the other Corvette, the Zero car from Johor Racing.
Yeah, Dennis Lind still massively underrated as a driver. He's been a champion, of course, in Lamborghini Super Trofeo. He's been a champion in Blancpain GT Asia, as it was then called. We've seen him win British GT as well. But it would be great to have him back in a regular frontline car, that is for sure. He's a good character as well as a really good driver. Yeah, exactly that. The last bit of trivia, so the only manufacturer I didn't mention was this one, Lamborghini. They're not inside the top 15 at the moment. They are 18th at the moment, Maximilian Paul in the 63 as a slow Porsche there, hopefully just getting out of the way, but at the moment doesn't seem to be moving very quickly out of the source. But this car effectively, I would call our race winner from last year, the Grassa GRT team. The winners, but with a Huracan and a very different driver lineup. Yeah, very true. Marco Bortolotti is the one constant in all of that. Dan Harper's BMW, you can see there coming up the hill towards us, and Marco Mappelli, by the look of it, is behind. Oh no, sorry, Maxime Pod, it is, isn't it? Behind the wheel of 63 as it comes now into Les Combes. Who else have we had improving of late? Arju Miney has got number 64 Mustang up into the top 11. We've got 12 minutes of this session to go. And Maximilian Paul then now down through Bruxelles. Somebody else that's come via the German GT and then into the DTM ranks, but is an impressive driver. Yeah, hugely so, and kind of that aggressive build, isn't he? That younger GT driver, which we see with a bit more of a single-seater mentality, single driver, sprint racing mentality. And for them, that mentality is actually merged into what modern GT racing is. We say it over and over again. You can tick it off your bingo list. Spa 24 Hours is a sprint race. It's 24 sprint sessions in one go. If you don't push every session like a sprint, you won't win. When you do push it like that, the failure rate goes through the roof. So that's the position you get stuck in this epic, epic race. The Ferrari through the Cours Paul Frère, his campus into the Cours Paul Frère, the Dynamic GT Porsche you can see there. And Maximilian Paul's lap is not going to be an improvement, but it is mileage. And Lamborghini, in fairness, not really coming here looking for a win this year. They know that car is still in development. It's perhaps a frustration to somehow the development rate is continuing, but Lamborghini have been savvy to try and get the cars to different teams. So you've got Rutronic developing one, you've got Grassa, who's been a loyal servant to the Lamborghini brand. He's developing another through his team. Over the timing line goes Maximilian Paul, then this long run down towards La Source, and although you might think that is flat, it's still another climb into the corner. And then finally you get round the other side of the hairpin, and eventually the road does drop down the hill. Yeah, over 100 metres of elevation change over the 7 kilometres here. And to quantify what 100 metres is, that's a 30-storey building. Every single lap you're going up and down it. And again, another bit of ammo, if you ever needed it, of why the drivers love this place. Can I tell you how hard work it was on Sunday, running it at the end of the day? It was brutal. See all the fans of the grandstand overlooking Eau Rouge there in the shade, nobody wanting a seat at front for a change. Right, Dynamics brought 54 into its box. Then the Porsche of Tanat Sassuan-Tirocool, Francesco Simonazzi, Angus Whiteside and Lawrence Cabiru. New set of boots going on. Yeah, interesting. With just 10 minutes to go. And you've got the Rutronic Lamborghini just ahead of it. You can see being dropped down off its stilts, ready to go back out. So this couldn't be a better quali sim if you tried it. In terms of fuel load will be low, brand new set of tyres, and the closest you're going to get to the time of day for qualifying as well. And it's been a relatively steady driver change, isn't it? It feels like this is the hold-up, and normally this is done in under 20 seconds. So maybe a belt getting caught behind the drivers, the normal one. Teams practice, 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 and even how the belts are hung is a huge point of contention. I love that shot, looking down at the chicane. The inner track is the racetrack, the outer lane is pit in, and you can see how beautifully manicured the lawns are. Painted curves, repainted for the weekend. And very patriotic, of course, all the Belgian colours being represented down at the chicane there.
Very trippy, isn't it?
It is a bit, yeah. Meanwhile, Jules Gounon is 17th in the times in the Red Bull Verstappen.com but 2Cs run Mercedes. Comes down through the run after the endurance pits, down through Eau Rouge and Lapradi on the other side. And this is a car, I think, working his way through a programme. Meanwhile, we talked about Joseph Lote going well earlier on. He's given the car over, and Bryn is with Joseph in the pit lane.
Joseph, you were quickest in the third prologue. I know it was different conditions, very wet out there. Can you give us an idea? You're about 5-6 tenths off at the moment, which isn't terrible at all, but just how different is it, and just how difficult is it out there in the car?
I think I speak for the whole grid when I say this. This weekend has been horrible as drivers. Like, the grip level is so low. I don't really know why. Like, we went out for the paid test on Tuesday and we genuinely thought there was a problem. Like, it just didn't feel right at all. To be fair, I think we've made some good steps since then. I don't think the pace is too bad, but I'm interested to see where we end up come qualifying. But I honestly couldn't tell you at the moment.
Is there anything you can do to the car between now and qualifying as well? I know you get limited to what you can do that can get you those improvements, because it's fine margins, but no one's setting the world alight time-wise.
Yeah, I mean, we made a big step. The car's definitely more underneath. I feel a lot more comfortable. I feel like I can push a little bit more now. You know, where we go from here, I don't know. There's definitely some things that we can tweak, but it feels like we've tried everything at the moment. So yeah, we'll try a few things for sure, but I think now that we're in a good window, I don't really think we'll change too much.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Macclesfield's finest racing driver, Joseph Lote, talking about grip. When he said it's been horrible, I was expecting him to talk about temperature, but grip was the problem.
And he did the time of that car. That's the 7th fastest time of this session. So there's 62 other cars with 3 or 4 drivers in that are going to use stronger adjectives than Joseph Lote just used. That was a punchy interview. I like it this early on, as Kirchhofer is now getting his laps in just before quali. Interesting to see how they run these drivers in qualifying, and then if they get through to Super Bowl, which driver will drive.
Because it's going to be the same driver throughout all of Super Bowl. It's not like that other 24-hour race the other week where it had to be a different driver across every aspect. Here, whoever is given Super Bowl has to do potentially all 4 parts of it if you are good enough. We go from 32 to 16 to 8 to 4. Punchy interview from Joseph Lote. Punchy approach to Lecon by Martin Kirchhoff, wasn't it? He was not spending any more time behind that Audi. He was coming through.
Yeah, after they got knocked out at Monza, so maybe they feel attack is the best form of defence. But I can see what Joseph Lote meant about this car. It just doesn't have any purchase. It doesn't seem to load up. It goes into a slide very easily. And that's obviously what they're feeling in the car. There's no purchase, there's no bite. And so it just feels like you're never able to lean on the car as much as you want. And it's obviously not a car problem because they're fast. And everyone else is commenting the same thing. Full course yellow, sorry.
Indeed so. We've got everyone slowing down. So the full course yellow comes and the field slows on instruction. This may be because of a car off. It may be just another practice from race control just to get teams and drivers used to it, because if you tried it in FP1, it could well have been different drivers in the cars. So let's quickly activate a full course yellow. There are going to be plenty in the race, I suspect, and it gets everybody drilled into what the speed feels like and how you get there safely.
Yeah, and it's quite a stringent procedure these days, how it comes up on the driver display, counting down from 10 on the display, but the teams can be notified anything up to 20 seconds in advance. And the rule is, once it is full course yellow, when it hits 0, you need to be doing 80k. Sounds simple, right? But there's so much time to be found. You could be doing 265 kilometers an hour at the end of the Kemmel Straight, and you need to knock off 185 kilometers an hour as quickly and as efficiently as possible, but on time as well. And we see that gap ebb and flow so much, don't we, under a full course yellow, and teams love to maximise doing their pit stops during this procedure as well.
And of course some drivers will stand on the brakes and get there quickly, and others might be a little bit slower, and so this is why we sometimes have a Larry moment or two. But this looks like a genuine test from Niels Vitic and his team in race control. This is La Source hairpin that you're hovering over, and the other side of that is that big gravel bed on one side, but then the run all the way down to Eau Rouge. 4 more minutes of this session to go. It looks like Ferrari will top the times come the end of it.
We spoke about the probability of full course yellows. Last year we had 15 full course yellows, so it is a real thing for the teams to have to try and factor in to strategy, but also how the car reacts. If we go short full course yellow, we go straight back to green, or the long full course yellow procedure means we'll always go to a safety car afterwards to get those tyre temps back up. But I mean, with it being so warm this weekend, Niels Vitic is probably going to take a different view on that as you see the race on pit lane as the car leaving. This is where they were cutting on the left, where the Mercedes is now, but you've got to keep one wheel on the white line at all times.
The best time, by the way, this morning in FP1, Alessio Rovera's Ferrari, a 2:17.234. The best we've had now, a 2:18.1, nearly a full second slower. Now, all right, a lot more rubber's gone down and temperatures have gone up, but it's like a completely different session altogether.
Yeah, last year the 2-session difference was 4/10, like I mentioned at the start. So FP2 normally slower because less teams doing a new tyre run because it's warm. But this year, yeah, that drop-off is massive, and it's just the temperature's gone through the roof as we look at Rougetronic running 2 cars. One Porsche, one Lamborghini, and it was the Porsche that nearly won them last year, wasn't it? They were on that slightly left field strategy, running slightly different. They didn't have the overall pace over a lap, but I felt like their strategy was probably the best and the most left field inside the top 10.
But they did claim a win because they were the winning IGTC entrant home, so they won a round of that championship, even if they were second in the CrowdStrike 24 Hours of Spa. More pit lane speeds are being looked at. For some, this is almost the end of the session, isn't it? Because you're not going to do a time now. You might as well take this opportunity to do some more practice pit stops. You can see that's what WRT is doing around number 32 that Charles Weerts has brought into the pit lane. See the driver change going on. This is in the foreground as Mercedes and Audi venture back out. Others go to the pit box. Look, cars being pushed away.
Yeah, they're done for the session, and that's the positive of this session for the teams now being a free practice, not a pre-qualifying, as it has been in previous years. Used to be a pre-qualifying in case qualifying got cancelled. You'd take the times from this, but it meant the checks were much more stringent, and the cars went into a long parc ferme process in case there was any problems in scrutiny, whereas now it's just a general free practice.
So through the chicane they come. There's less than a lap time left in the session, so this might run us now up to the checkered flag. But you've got Ferrari from Mercedes AMG, from Ferrari from McLaren, from Ferrari from Mercedes AMG, from McLaren, from Porsche, from Audi, from Mercedes AMG as your top 10. Interesting mix, but looking pretty decent for Ferrari, isn't it?
Really is. They've shown their hand pretty early in terms of pace. McLaren, Mercedes up there as well. That's got a nice ring to it, isn't it? But McLaren and Mercedes up there. Porsche knocking on the door, and the Audi keeping the form up as well. Always like to try and make an early call of who I think the favourites are, but it is wide open right now. And I would say with 3 Ferraris inside the top 5, they're looking like the dominating force at the moment.
The new pit building there you can see that's replaced the old Uniroyal Tower. This is the car that's the quickest then. And number 50 has Lilou Wadou at the wheel, so I think they have gone through everybody in this session. Arthur Leclerc at the start to do the time, and Sean Galal a brief stint, and Lilou Wadou now, having been a IMSA Endurance GTD champion a few seasons back. The time, the 2:18.1 done by Arthur Leclerc from earlier, but Lilou at the wheel of the car right now. Full course yellow is ending on short notice. And we go green with just about 10 seconds now remaining. So for those that are near the chicane, checkered flag beckons.
Yeah, and then you will obviously box at the end of that lap. And the next time we see these cars is qualifying, and suddenly it's a very different proposition. As cars still having to weave left to right to try and get that temperature back up, maybe just cleaning the tyres as well. And that was a theme, wasn't it, last year? The pickup was huge for drivers having to go offline, either being overtaken or being the overtaker. So again, all information for drivers and teams.
So 50 Ferrari back on pace. This is the quick car in the session. The flag is out, so all of these drivers will take the checkered flag at the end of this lap. So to see where the other surprises may be. Well, almost half the field, you could argue, should be higher up the order, but sheer weight of numbers means that somebody's got to miss out. But we haven't really yet seen the cars start to do a proper qualifying run, and that's going to be very interesting indeed in that next session to see who can do what.
Yeah, you take all the fuel out, you whack some new tyres on, And the driver given that freedom to push. It's the only time of the weekend that a crash is almost allowable because you are on the limit. You've got to find, not every 10th, not every 100th, every 1000th. There will be cars that will be on the same lap time to the 1000th. That shows you how competitive this field will be.
So, as Lilo Wadu's Ferrari heads for the checkered flag, what else do we have? Where did the number 24 Corvette get to? That got to 30th. Number 8 Porsche that's being looked at for the incident that caused that earlier stoppage, 22nd in the times. BMW has quite a lot to find yet, unless there's a game being played there.
Yeah, only 2 cars would make it into Superpole. Of course, balanced performance. All teams want to keep that car quick as they can for the race, but now there's so much data involved. It's so hard to hide anything. Gone are those days. So I think worryingly for them, that might be all they've got in this trim. This could be a race run. They could stiffen the car up. They could make some aggressive setup changes for qualifying where the car can generate the lap time. But at the moment, they're unable to get anywhere near the sharp end in this field.
Qualifying tonight, as we were saying earlier, it's going to start at about 7:45. It's not going to finish until 10 o'clock. It's a long, long session, of course, with the split and with the fact that you've got to get 4 drivers through. But temperatures are going to be dropping, the light's going to be fading as well, so it's going to be, the whole thing's going to evolve.
And that's without a red flag.
Yeah, true enough.
Qualifying, the red flag will, of course, pause the clock. They may scrap a session if there's only a couple of minutes left, but that's also my worry for qualifying. The chance of red flags high, and then the delay for that. So depending on your driver order there as well, if any of them don't like the night, they're going to want to go first to guarantee them some daylight. So lots and lots to factor in. But you're right, David, the temperature track swing could probably be 10 to 15 degrees from start to end. So where do you set your car up?
Yeah.
You can change the tyre pressures easy enough, but doing setup changes for that track temp is a big call for the teams to make.
So Ferrari tops the times in this second free practice session, and with 50 and 51 first and third, I've got to say it's a pretty decent start to the weekend for AF Corse. Alessio Rovera having also, of course, topped in the sister car 51 the earlier session. So Ferrari, thus far, the car to beat.
Yeah, I was just literally thinking inside my head, which is always a dangerous game. I wonder if these conditions favour a mid-engine, front engine, or rear engine, and actually all 3 are covered in the top 8. Porsche being the rear engine, of course, in 8th place. Ferrari fastest, and a mid-engine, a front engine, sorry, Mercedes in 2nd.
Well, this is the order at the end of free practice. Lilo Wadu after Leclerc, Sean Gilles, Ferrari the quickest. Maxime Martin second, Alessio Rovera third from Salman Ovega, who did a good lap in that car. Then you had Malte Ebdrup from Mario Engel. I'm not sure we ever saw Luca Stoltz get into that car. 7th was Joseph Loke. Then you did get the fella Preining and Bus Porsche out, and it went 8th ahead of Rocco Mazzola's Audi, and 10th for Marvin Dean's Gabriele Piano, Rinat Salikov, Dan Arrow, Winward Mercedes, another car rebuilt after the dramas of Monza a few weeks ago. Fastest in Pro, number 50 Ferrari. Fastest in silver, the Ovega, Raponge, Oliveira, Porter, McLaren. Fastest in gold, Conrad Lawson, Malte Ebdrup, Simon Birch and Frederick Schandorf with the Ferrari. And the best of the bronzes was the Dan Arrow, Marvin Dienst, Rinat Salikov, Gabriele Piana, Winward Mercedes. And there you can see the order as 68 cars cycled through, with the one that we didn't see, that Tsunami RT Porsche. If there are 3 drivers listed, you know it's a pro car. If there are 4, it's in any of the other categories. But look at that, the Rutronic Lamborghini a long, long way down the list. And it was Patrick Castellan's car at the foot of the times after being tipped into the gravel earlier. So let's have a quick look at the highlights of that session, with Zero Ben Tuck being out first. The dust settling as 1 or 2 ran wide, and the Ford Mustang of Finn Wiebelhaus needing some new front bodywork. 1 or 2 were running wide, including the Rutronic Porsche coming out of Eau Rouge and getting back onto the circuits. Came the 911, showering 1 or 2 with gravel as it did so. Temperatures still high, and number 74 Ferrari, the Dustin Blattner backed car. Bent up doing the early driving duties in that as 007 with Nicky Team trying to get itself up the order, the winning crew from 2 years ago. And then when Patrick Catalan was bundled off the circuit, that briefly brought out a red flag. Everybody headed for the pit lane, and as soon as they were back on track, ready to go once more. Cars running wide at the Cours Paul Frere, others having new tyres ready for another run, all of which builds us up nicely for qualifying. It's been a good day thus far for Ferrari, topping both sessions, and at 7:45 the lights will go green, all being well, at the end of the pit lane to get the session for qualifying underway. Is Ferrari going to be the dominant brand across the day? We'll find out when we get back to the CrowdStrike 24 hours of Spa for qualifying a little bit later. For now, though, from Belgium, bye-bye.